Hello, guys. Welcome back to a new 2022 House of Representatives prediction. I haven't done one since beginning of this month, and back then it was more of a toss-up the House, but now it looks like the House is going to the favor of Republicans. I mean, you could just tell by the toss-ups available that the Democrats so far at 186, Republicans at 213, and there's 36 toss-up seats up for grabs. So even if the Republicans gain, like, I don't know, let's say 18 seats, they're at like 230 already. So let's get into this. But I'm going to first look at this map. I don't think Montana's first district is going to be that competitive, but I'm going to put it as likely for now. Some polls did show it within like 41 and 40, but with the new generic ballots, it might even be solid, and I'm probably going to put it as solid GOP. I think the Republicans going to win by over 10% here. Don't think that race is going to be that competitive. In Tennessee, this race is not going to be that competitive, in my opinion, either. I don't see it going that way. Marionette Miller Meeks, she's only, like, some polls showed her with only a very small, lean Republican lead in the polls, so I'm going to say it's going to be lean Republican. And that's what the Seltzer poll shows. And let's get into this. So let's start. Alaska, Patola's going to win by a lean margin. That's what the poll's been showing. Swikart's district, Democrats kind of gave up on funding this district, so he's going to win by a likely margin. Same with the Republican here. I also think it's going to win by a likely Republican margin, just because Biden barely won this district, and the generic ballot, on average, is 3 to 4 points Republican. Kamala Harris's going to put up a decent fight, but he's still going to lose, so by a lean margin, I'd say. California 13th, it's an open seat, and most pros only have it as tilt Democratic, and I'm putting it as lean. Valadeo and Garcia. These districts, I mean, even though they're Biden won by this much, they are incumbents, and the generic ballot is 3 to 4%. So let's do the math here. So if the generic ballot's 4, let's say in their best case scenario, that's an 8% shift towards Republicans. So that would only make it down to 4%. Garcia. But Garcia is known for clutching out very close election victories, so I think he could honestly pull it out. Valadeo, on the other hand, with the benefit of the doubt, he isn't an incumbent, and if the generic ballot is showing a 3 to 4% lead, I think he could also slowly pull out a victory here, just barely, against Rudy Salas. Katie Porter and Mike Levin. I think they're both going to win by a likely margin. I don't think it's going to be a lean Democratic race. But if there is one, then Levin's district to go to lean. I really doubt Katie Porter will be, though, into it like a very competitive race. She's a very vocal congresswoman in Congress, so I think it's going to be hard to beat her. Colorado 8th District, yeah, I agree. Kirkmeyer has been having a lot of leads in the most recent polls here in Colorado's district. Connecticut, I think it's a stretch. I think it's going to be a likely state or likely district for the Democrats. Florida, I agree with that rating. It is probably likely Republican. And honestly, I think it could even be solid because DeSantis is doing extremely well in the governor's race, so I'm going to be putting it as safe Republican. Sydney Axney. She is an incumbent Democrat, however, this district is very neutral, and the Republicans are winning the generic ballot, so I think they're going to be able to flip it. Illinois 13th, I agree with this rating, is lean Democratic. Bustos district. I really think the Republicans are going to pull off a victory here with their new decent lead in the generic ballot. Indiana's district, I think the Dems will narrowly hold it. Kansas's district, Sharice Davids, I think she's narrowly going to lose here by a lean margin just because of that lead in the generic ballot. And since Kansas in general is decently rural, even though Kansas 3rd has a lot of cities in it, I still think Republicans are going to flip it. Maryland 6, I think Democrats will narrowly hold it. In Maine 2nd, Jared Golden, he's a very strong moderate Democrat, and he's going to beat Bruce Pike when he did it before, and he's going to do it again. I think he's going to outperform the just average Democrat once again, like he did in 2020, and winning Maine 2nd when Trump won it by 6 points. Peter Mayhew's old district, Democrats pretty much successfully got Maher defeated in the primary, and John Gibbs is very radical for the district, so I think the Democrats could pull off a victory there. I'll come back to Slotkin and Kildee at the end. Those are the most interesting ones, and they could go either way. Minnesota's district. Craig, I think, is going to pull off a narrow victory here, but it'll be closer than usual for her. It'll be kind of hard because there always is that third party, marijuana party in Minnesota that'll take votes away from her, so that'll definitely hurt her. John James, I think he's going to outperform here by a likely margin. He usually does pretty good in the Michigan Senate race. He did pretty decent. He outperformed Trump, and I think he'll outperform in this district. And plus, Democrats are stopping funding the candidate in this district, so they kind of just gave up on it. Butterfield, Don Davis will probably win here by a lead margin in Butterfield's old seat against Sandy Smith. While Republicans will win in the open seat here in North Carolina because of their generic ballot lead. Don Bacon's going to win by a likely margin at this point. He usually outperforms Republicans pretty decently, and I think he'll do it again. In New Hampshire's one swing district, I think Chris Papias is going to pull off a victory here because the Republican candidate they have here is pretty radical again, and that's not really going to work for New Hampshire because they usually tend to be a more socially liberal state, so I think he'll pull off a victory here. Malinowski, I think he's going to lose to Tom Keene. He barely won this district in 2020. Yvette Harrell, she won this district in 2020, and Republicans are going to do better than that, so she'll win. But it is a lot more Democratic district, which is why it's lean Republican, and she won lean Republican last time around. But the Republicans' generic ballot lead should be sufficient enough in getting her another term. In Nevada, I think Susie Lee is probably going to be the weakest Democrat here, and I think she'll narrowly lose, while Stephen Horsford, I think he'll pull off a narrow victory. Titus will win here as well. Zeldin's old district, since he's running for governor and he's putting this into a likely gov race, the Democrats only have a 7 to 8 point lead in New York, I think Republicans here will win this district by a likely margin. New York 3rd's district is a district to keep an eye on. I mean, especially if Zeldin does pretty well in the New York gov race. This district could flip for Republicans if Zeldin gets it into a lean margin territory. However, these are probably going to be one of the districts where we're going to be waiting on weeks and weeks because the New York Supreme Court decided to go back to the old way of counting New York ballots, which take forever. So we probably won't even know the results of the governor race in New York for a week or two because of how long it's going to take into account. But I guess we could pretty much effectively figure out who's probably going to win there, which is probably going to be the Democrat based on how much turnout we're seeing from the city. Kathleen Rice, again, because Zeldin's doing pretty decent in the gov race, it's going to lean Democratic. Maloney's district, I'd say it's about lean Democratic. It's a fair rating. Pat Ryan, I think he's also going to win by a lean margin. In New York 22, Williams has been showing a lead in the polls, and I think he'll win by a lean margin. Mark Molinaro, this is a true toss-up race, New York 19th. However, I think he's going to narrowly pull it off because the environment's different from August, where he lost in the special election. The environment's much different now, and the Republicans have gained a lot of momentum. In Ohio, I still think Steve Chabot's going to win, however, this is one of the districts to watch. If Democrats flip this district, that's really good signs for them, but for now, I think the Republicans will win. Captor here, by most indications, I do think she's going to win. I think she'll win by a lean margin. However, it's a very Republican district, which is why J.R. Majewski, even after all his scandals, he's still in this race. It's still a swing district. Gonzalez, well, he's not running for re-election, but another Republican is, and it's not even that much of a Biden-won district, so I think Republicans pull off a victory there as well. In Oregon, yeah, a lot of these districts are won by Biden by a lot, but they're competitive in the polling, so Schrader's district is probably going to flip Republican, while these other two just narrowly hold Democratic. However, if Republicans outperform here, they could flip all three of these Oregon swing seats that they outperform pretty solidly. In Pennsylvania, I would say Susan Wild's probably going to lose because of how close of a neutral district it is, and the Republicans are leading the generic ballot. Connor Lamb and in his old seat, Chris DeLuzzo is running, and most polls show him with a lead here. Cartwright, he's one of these Democrats who usually outperform in the House, and I think he's going to outperform the partisan lean of this district and win it narrowly. However, the Republicans could very well win this district. It's very possible. But at the same time, in the polling, he has shown strength, so I think he'll pull off a victory here. In Rhode Island's 2nd district, I really think Fung's going to pull off the victory now. Most polls show him ahead here, and I think he could really do it. Even the Democrats' own internal poll shows Fung ahead, and those undecideds, they probably will break Republican, or they just might break 50-50, and that's enough for Fung to win there. Texas's 15th district, I really don't see why it's lean Republican. I think it's probably more likely Republican. I think Republicans are going to perform pretty decently down here in the south part of Texas, which is where all these swing districts are. Henry Keeler, he's going to pull off a victory here. He's a very moderate Democrat, and that's the right type of Democrat to win this district. And in Texas 34th, we have two incumbents running against each other. Probably be one of the more competitive races, but I do think the Democrats have an edge here because this is a Biden-won district of 15.7%, and I do think they'll be able to pull off that victory here. Elaine Luria is probably going to lose, but this is one of these swing districts. It could go either way, and this is a district to keep an eye on for House control. If Democrats are winning here, then the Republicans probably only getting a majority of in the low 220s. Spanberger, I also think, is going to pull off a victory, so I agree with Kim Shire. And finally, they have put this seat as likely Republican where it really belongs. So let's scroll back up and see how much seats the Republicans have picked up. Oh, and I forgot these two districts here. Okay, so this is Slotkin's district, and I do think she's one of the more tougher Democrats. She did pretty much hold her same margin she got in 2018 and 2020. That pretty much stayed virtually the same. So I do think she'll be able to win here just narrowly. And this is one of the seats I was going back and forth on in my predictions recently for the House. But I do think she'll be able to perform well here. And I do think Kildee's going to be able to win re-election as well. Just because Gretchen Whitmer is winning by a decent margin, around 5 to 6%. Or no, around 5 to 7% on average. So, yep, that's my election prediction. I think the Democrats are going to lose the House of Representatives to Republicans. I think the Republicans will have 229 seats, the Democrats 206, but there's a lot of seats that could go either way here, and Republicans could get into the 230s. It's very possible. So, that's my election prediction, guys. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.